Hey, this is Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Bregman of the Jewish Executive Learning Network and BregmanSuccess.com. It's Thursday. I finished off my coffee. I'm on to my second drink, and that's a bottle of water. I like to do these early AM beveraged videos. It's Thursday. Let's do a Torah thought on this week's Torah portion. I'm going to share with you something from Short and Sweet on the Parsha, my commentary on the weekly Torah portion, which you could see behind us, some of the ones that I have left. This week's Torah portion is called Parshas Boi, or Bo, or Boi, depending on how you pronounce it. We're moving now a couple Torah portions into the book of Exodus. I want to share with you a quick insight. Talk about this in Short and Sweet on the Parsha on page 158. Okay, so here we go. Let me just set it up for you, and you'll see what I want. The verse says, "You shall not eat it." Now it's talking about the Korban Pesach, the sacrifice. The Korban Pesach is the Pesach Passover offering or sacrifice eaten in the temple, in the time of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. It says, "You shall not eat it." That's the Korban Pesach, the Passover offering, partially roasted or cooked in water. You only can eat it roasted over fire. And the animal has to be roasted over the fire entirely, with its head and its legs and the inside parts that come with it. That's how you're supposed to eat the Korban Pesach. So can you boil it in water to make it? No. Can you put it in the microwave? No. Even if we had the temple and microwaves back then or today, could you do it? No. It has to be roasted. Okay, this is the book of Exodus, chapter 12, verse 9. So I discuss over here, what are we supposed to learn from it, this verse, other than the technical reason. So there's a commentary. We call him one of the Rishonim, one of the medieval commentaries, the classic Torah commentary called the Ibn Ezra. He says that the Jewish people at the time might have assumed, the sheep, which would be brought as the Korban Pesach animal over here, this to be eaten, the sheep. And they did this for the first time when they were leaving Egypt. They said, they might have said this animal is like a god, it's literally a god of Egypt. So we don't want to anger these people or upset these people. So let's eat it quickly. Let's eat it privately. Let's chop it up into small pieces, and they won't know what we're barbecuing over here. And we're roasting. So anyway, the Torah says no. You're supposed to eat it this way. We say in Hebrew, bedavka, in order to show, you're doing it anyway. Okay, fine. And to show that God is in control and God is in charge and nothing bad can happen to you. He's protecting you. Nothing the Egyptians could do, so on and so forth. Okay. So one of the reasons I think this verse is interesting in this mitzvah, the Ibn Ezra, what you see from him over here is you see a peek into the mentality of the Jewish people at the time. Even though Egypt had been massively smashed by the plagues, and this was after all the plagues, it's at the end now of all the time, and Egypt was smashed to pieces by the slaves, and Hashem, God, is taking them out of Egypt. You could see their mentality. They still were operating with a slave mentality, and that's where their headspace was. Even though technically they probably had nothing to fear, it was still on their mind, okay? I want to connect that Ibn Ezra to another question, which many people ask, and that is, why didn't the Jewish people fight back at the time when they reached the Red Sea? When they reached the Red Sea, there were 3 million Jews that had left Egypt, and the verse says in the Torah that Pharaoh chased them with 600 of his elite chariots. He gave chase. So if you have 3 million Jewish people and 600 Mitzrim, Egyptians chasing, it's like ratio of, you got 5,000 to 1. I mean, why don't they fight back? Why are they so afraid? And they thought they were done and goners and everything else. The answer had to do with their mindset, their mentality. They were still operating under a slave mentality, and they felt oppressed, even though the numbers had dictated and correlated in such a way. You know what 5,000 people is? Imagine a crowd of 5,000 people going after one Egyptian. Even if the Egyptian whips or, God forbid, or hurts a couple people, 5,000 people? But the answer is, when you have a mentality that you've been held down and held back, it's very hard to advance. You hear what I'm trying to say? So that's why it's a mentality. It's not always about the numbers and what we call in Hebrew your yecheles, your actual capabilities and potential. I'm going to put this aside so I can use my hands the way rabbis like to use their hands, right? So it's not just always about your yechelis, your actual potential. Sometimes it has to do with your mindset. I would suggest that this Ibn Ezra perhaps can answer famous question asked, like, why was it that the Jews in the Holocaust many times didn't fight back more? They were in the camps, and there were so many of them, of the Jews there, and yeah, obviously the Nazis and the Germans and the guards, they had weapons, but numerically couldn't, if a bunch of them had pounced on the guards, couldn't they get the gun away? Even if the guard had tried shooting this way, that way, like, couldn't they get them? Numerically, the answer is, one of the answers is that it has a lot to do with mentality and the headspace where you're at. So, number one, I'm sharing this as a nice insight into this week's Torah portion, A. B, the second thing I just want you to take with this is be very sensitive when you're looking at yourself and you're looking at other people to try to understand their mindset and mentality. Look, you don't have superpowers. You can go into their head and necessarily psychically figure out what they're thinking. Maybe I can. I don't know if you can. No, I'm kidding. Or am I, right? But, you can't always go do that. But try to understand people and their mentality. When you don't see people taking the actions that you think they could, they could, you believe they should, makes so much sense. And you're wondering, like, this person can accomplish up here, do up here, reach up here. Why are they over here? Try to get their mindset right. Try to go into their mindset and adjust their thinking, tinker with their thinking, relate to them where they are. Also relate to yourself where you are. Most people I know are capable of doing way more than they realize, but their mindset's not right. First, you have to get your mindset right before you take action. So there's a lot we could do with this, many different directions, but it's a nice Torah idea. If you'd like to order a copy, I'll get you a copy. Write me an email, director@jeln.org, or you can look on Amazon or feldheim.com. I don't know, they might be out of copies. That's what I was told, but got to check. Add that to the to-do list. And please share this video with others. Have a good Shabbos. Enjoy. Bye.